I always believed my mother when she said my father was gone. "Your dad passed away before you were old enough to remember him," she whispered to me once when I was 6. Her voice shook, but as a child I didn't question it. I grew up carrying that truth like a shadow. Every time Father's Day came around, I sat quietly while other kids made cards for their dads. I told myself at least I had a mother who cared. But deep down, something never felt right. Why did my mother always avoid questions about him? Why did her eyes always drift away when I asked his name, his job, or what kind of man he was? For years, I buried the questions. I told myself I was overthinking. But one night, the truth I had been denied for decades began to surface, and it destroyed everything I thought I knew about my family. By the way, before I go further, I'm curious. Where are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments because it always amazes me how these stories connect with people all over the world. And don't forget to subscribe because the twists you're about to hear are the kind you'll never forget. It was my mother's birthday. The house was filled with laughter, music, and the smell of food. Relatives poured in, hugging her, congratulating her on turning 60. I was in the kitchen pouring drinks when I overheard 2 women talking, my aunt and one of her old friends. "Can you believe he showed up again after all these years?" the friend whispered. "I know," my aunt replied nervously. "If she ever finds out, it'll tear everything apart." I froze. Who had shown up, and who wasn't supposed to find out? That night, as I helped clean up, I confronted my aunt. At first, she dismissed me, saying I misheard. But then, with trembling lips, she let it slip. "Your father, he isn't dead. He's alive." The world tilted beneath me. My chest tightened. My mother had lied. My entire life had been built on a story that was never true. And worse, the reason she lied was darker than I could have ever imagined. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, hearing my aunt's words echo again and again. "Your father isn't dead. He's alive." Alive! The word felt heavy, almost unreal. If he was alive, then where had he been all these years? And why had my mother lied so convincingly, so repeatedly, every time I asked? The next morning, I couldn't hold it in any longer. At breakfast, I looked at my mother sitting across from me, her tired eyes, her delicate hands stirring sugar into her tea. I wanted to scream.
I started digging.
I wanted
First
to
through
accuse
old
her
photo
right
albums
there.
hidden in the attic.
But instead, I
Most
asked
were
soft-
family pictures I'd seen before. But then, tucked in the back of one album, there was a photo I had never seen. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes that looked hauntingly like mine. He had his arm around my mother, who looked so young and radiant. My heart pounded. This had to be him, my father. On the back of the photo, in faded ink, was a name. Just one name. Daniel. That was it. No last name, no date, no note. Just Daniel. I kept searching, desperate for more. And that's when I found an old letter, folded so many times the paper was nearly tearing. It was written in a man's handwriting. It said, "I can't stay away forever. She deserves to know the truth. One day, she'll find out who I am." Signed simply, D. My hands trembled as I read it over and over. For 2 days, I carried the photo and letter with me, hidden in my bag. Every time I looked at them, I felt torn apart inside, a mix of anger, confusion, and longing. I couldn't keep it bottled up anymore. So one evening, when the house was quiet, I walked into the living room where my mother was folding laundry. "Mom," I said firmly, holding up the photo, "who is this?" Her eyes froze. She didn't need to look twice. She knew immediately. Her hands started shaking, the shirt slipping from her grip. Where did you find that?" she whispered. "I found it in the attic. Why didn't you tell me?" My voice cracked between fury and heartbreak. "All my life, you told—"
"Protect me?" I snapped, my voice louder now. "From my own father? From the truth? You let me grow up thinking he was dead. Do you have any idea what that does to a child?" Her tears spilled over, and she covered her face with trembling hands. She cried, "You don't understand. Daniel, he wasn't the man you think he was. He wasn't safe." "Safe?" The word chilled me. "What do you mean?" I demanded, but she just shook her head, refusing to look at me. "I did what I had to do. One day, maybe you'll thank me." Thank her? For stealing my father from me? For burying the truth? My heart was pounding so loudly, I could hear it echo in my ears. I didn't know whether to scream or break down in tears. At that moment, I made a silent promise to myself. If my mother wouldn't give me answers—
That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, the man in the photo, the man I had been denied for years. Who was he really? Why had my mother erased him from my life? I needed answers, real answers. The next morning, I pulled out the letter again. I stared at the signature, Daniel. His handwriting was bold, steady, confident, almost defiant. If my mother wouldn't talk, then I would have to find him myself. I started with the only clue I had, the old return address on the envelope. It was faded and smudged, but still readable, a small town 2 hours away. My heart raced as I typed the name into my phone. Could he still be there? Or was this another dead end? But I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was moving. I packed a small bag, just the essentials. My hands trembled as I zipped it shut. This wasn't just a trip. This was a mission. Before leaving, I paused by my mother's door. She was inside, softly humming to herself, as if nothing had happened. For a brief second, I almost knocked, almost begged her to come clean. But then I remembered her words, "You'll thank me one day." No, I couldn't trust her anymore. Not with this. I slipped out of the house quietly and got into my car. The drive felt endless. My thoughts kept spinning. Would he even want to see me? Did he even know I existed? Or worse, did he willingly abandon me? By the time I reached the edge of the town, my palms were sweaty on the steering. The waitress's eyes stayed fixed on me, scanning my face like she was searching for something. When I repeated my father's name, her lips parted just slightly, and then she sighed. "You must be his daughter," she said softly. Her words hit me like a wave. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My knees felt weak, and I gripped the counter just to steady myself. She studied me with a strange mix of recognition and pity. "She have your eyes," she murmured. "There's no doubt." I wanted to ask 100 questions at once, but all that came out was, "Do you know him? Where is he now?" Her smile faltered. "Oh, honey, you don't want to stir up old wounds. Daniel, he was a complicated man." I leaned forward, desperate. "Please, I've been lied to my whole life. Just tell me." She looked around the cafe, then motioned for me to sit. With a heavy sigh, she began. "Your father," she said, wasn't the monster some people made him out to be. But he wasn't a saint either. He was torn between two lives. Her words made my heart pound. 2 lives? What did that even mean? She went on. Years ago, Daniel lived here in town. Everyone knew him. Charming, handsome, the kind of man who drew people in. But he carried secrets. The kind of secrets that break families apart. I swallowed hard, fighting the lump in my throat. What kind of secrets? The waitress paused, her eyes flicking away as if she was weighing whether to say more. Finally, she whispered, "He had another family, a woman he loved before your mother, but they didn't end clean. There was betrayal, anger, and a lot of people got hurt in the crossfire." I froze. The house on the edge of town wasn't hard to find. It sat alone, tucked behind tall, whispering pines, its white paint faded, its porch sagging slightly with age. I stood at the end of the gravel driveway, staring at it, my heart hammering in my chest. This was it. The place where my father, the man I had been told was dead, returned each year. For a long moment, I couldn't move. Every step forward felt like walking into a storm. I raised my hand, about to knock, when the door creaked open on its own. And there he was. Older than I expected, lines etched deep in his face, hair graying at the temples, but his eyes, those eyes mirrored mine so perfectly, it was like looking at a distorted reflection. His hand tightened on the doorframe as he studied me. Shocked, I swallowed hard, forcing the words past my trembling lips. "You're my father." He flinched. His gaze broke away, like the truth itself burned him. "I never wanted you to find me." Those words cut deeper than any knife. My whole body shook, but anger kept me standing. "All my life, I thought you were dead. Do you have any idea what that does to a child? To grow up believing their father doesn't exist?" He pressed a hand to his forehead, his voice low and heavy. "Your mother wasn't wrong to protect you from me. I made mistakes, ones you'll never forgive." I stepped closer, my voice sharp. "Mistakes? You abandoned us. You left me with nothing but lies." His jaw tightened, his eyes glistened, though he tried to hide it. "I didn't abandon you. I was forced out." The weight of those words, the silence between us was unbearable. I stared at him, waiting for an explanation, anything to make sense of the years I had lost. Finally, he exhaled, shoulders sagging. "You deserve the truth, but it's not the truth you've been told." I crossed my arms, bracing myself. "Then start talking." He motioned for me to sit, but I refused. I didn't come all this way for comfort. I came for answers. His voice trembled at first, like he was fighting memories that refused to stay buried. "Your mother and I, we loved each other once, but we also made enemies, people who wanted us apart." I frowned, not understanding. What enemies? We weren't some crime family. His words hung in the air like thunder before a storm. "The secret your mother kept is unraveling, and you need to know before it destroys you too." I stepped back, shaking my head. "What do you mean, destroys me? You can't just drop something like that and stop talking." He rubbed his face with both hands, pacing the small room. "You think this was just about love? About a broken marriage? No. It was about power, legacy, and money. More money than you can imagine." My heart skipped. "Money? We didn't have money." Mom struggled every month just to keep food on the table. His eyes darkened. Because she gave it up. She turned her back on her inheritance. She wanted you safe, far away from the storm. But the people we crossed, they haven't forgotten. And now they're circling back. I sat there, staring at him, my thoughts spinning like a storm I couldn't escape. All these years I had believed my mother's story. Your father is gone. He's not alive. Her words echoed in my mind, sharp and cold. But now, piece by piece, the lies were crumbling. I clenched my fists. Why would she lie to me? Why would she say he was dead if he wasn't? He looked away, his jaw tightening. Because the truth was more dangerous than the lie. She wasn't protecting you from heartbreak. She was protecting you from the truth of who your father really was. I swallowed hard. And who was he? He leaned forward, his eyes burning into mine. Your father wasn't the man she told you about. He wasn't some poor, unlucky man who vanished. He was the key player in the empire she ran from, one of the very men who built it. My breath caught in my throat. You mean my father was one of them? He nodded.
The night after I learned the truth, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's face. Her smile when she tucked me in. Her voice when she told me bedtime stories. Her hand brushing the hair from my forehead. And then her voice, cold and final. Your father is gone. He's not alive. She had destroyed me with that lie. But as the hours passed, something inside me began to shift. Pain gave way to anger. Anger gave way to resolve. And resolve grew into a plan. If my father was who they said he was, an heir, a man tied to power and legacy, then my mother's lie wasn't just betrayal, it was theft. She had stolen my birthright, stolen the truth of who I was. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. I will not live as the girl broken by her lies, I whispered into the darkness. I will live as the daughter of the man she tried to erase. I will take back what she buried. Part B. The first step was information. I couldn't make reckless moves, not in a world where one wrong step could ruin me forever. So, the day finally came. I didn't plan it with fireworks. I didn't storm in with rage. Instead, I waited for the quietest of moments, the kind when truth hurts the most. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself as if nothing in the world was wrong. I watched her for a moment, the woman who raised me, the woman who lied to me. My chest tightened, but my resolve kept me standing tall. "Mom?" I said, my voice steady. She turned, smiling like she always did when she heard me. "Yes, sweetheart?" But I wasn't her sweetheart anymore. I slid the folded paper across the counter, a bank statement from decades ago. His name, my father's name, the one she told me never existed.